Love reptiles? Don't miss this. If you're passionate about reptiles, amphibians, and everything cold-blooded, Reptiles magazine is a must-have. Each issue is packed with expert care tips, stunning photography, and the latest news in the reptile world. Whether you're a seasoned herpetologist or just starting your reptile journey, this magazine has something for you. Subscribe today and stay informed on the best ways to care for your scaly friends. For only $14.99 a year, you can step outside your algorithm and get exposure to things that you wouldn't normally see or learn about. My family reads Reptiles magazine, and you should too. Visit subscribe.reptilesmagazine.com to get started. This is the Expert and the Idiot podcast. If you like the show and you'd like to support us, there's a link to our Patreon in the description below. Some benefits include getting access to new episodes up to a month in advance. There's also links to USARK and USARK Florida. If you're not already a member, please sign up. Enjoy the show. Welcome to episode 55 of The Expert and the Idiot. Today I'm talking to Lisa Farinha of Dark Garden Herpetoculture. And today we're going to be talking about all sorts of things. You recently bred green tree pythons, right? So we'll be talking about getting them started, some of the difficulties with that. Your wild caught scrub pythons, getting them established, white lip pythons. It seems like you really like challenges. Is that accurate?
Yeah, 100%. It's kind of like if I hear you can't do that or don't do that that way, I want to try it just to see for myself if I can do it. Or sometimes I find out that people are right, but a lot of the times it's like a dogma, like people just start saying something and then it just becomes accepted in the hobby, and it's not necessarily always true.
Yeah, the things that you do, the things that that we're going to be talking about today stress me out. It's like, man, like getting wild caught animals and then trying to establish them. Why?
Well, with the scrubs, it's not because it's not by choice. I would much rather have captive bred, but they're tannibar pythons, and it's hard to even find wild caught, let alone captive bred. There's a few people that mainly Eric Hernandez that is having success with those right now. I know Nick and Ryan have also bred them.
Yeah.
I think Ryan doesn't keep them anymore, but Nick still does. I think Nick still does. But right now, other than Eric, I don't even know. I'm sure there's other people producing them, but they're being held. Like no one's releasing their animals. So I love scrubs, but it's the size that holds me back from them. And so I thought tannibars would be great. And finally, what made me decide to go ahead and give it a shot is talking to Eric and him saying that his success was helped. I'm not going to take credit for it, but he said listening to how I kept my white lips and how I bred them, that helped him a lot. And I thought, well, if that's true, then I should give it a shot. I have, maybe I can actually do it. But I'm working class. I don't have a lot of money to spend on this hobby, and it's a pretty expensive hobby. Sure. And when it comes to like getting captive bred, you're spending a lot more money. And I have experience with wild caught animals. My grain trees are wild caught. And my white lips are wild caught, and I've had pretty good success with them. I've had a couple failures with the green tree pythons, but I think it was more that it was when I was pretty fresh, green behind the ears, and didn't know as much as I know now. And knowing not to buy like imports from Triple L. If you are going to get an import, try to source them from someone a little bit better than that. Because I mail ordered a green tree python early on, and it was sent to me with stuck shed, and it was tiny. I doubt it had ever even eaten once. And I took it to the vet, and it was ridiculous because the thing was the size of a noodle, and we were trying to give it antibiotics, and it didn't live long. But
yeah, it's terrible.
Other than that, getting an animal that's just like getting it firsthand and it's not doing well, I've had really good success with the wild caught. Until now, I'm struggling with the scrubs, and I feel like the
what's their scientific name?
The Tannenbar pythons.
Yeah.
It's Somalia nata, Nauta, I think.
Okay. I wonder if they're restricted in Florida.
No, they aren't. They aren't.
Really?
I think only I mean, I think you have to double check.
Yeah, yeah.
From what I understand, it's just Somalia amethystina, which is the main one you'll see. I actually, so it's funny. So I went ahead and I was like, okay, I'm going to get some Tannenbar pythons, and some babies popped up on Morph Market, right? And they were little red babies, and the guy is like, yeah, these were captive hatched in Indonesia. They're rare opportunity to get baby Tannenbars, because when you get an import, getting a young one is really better than getting an adult. Adults are a lot harder to establish. And so I jumped on it, and I get them in the mail. I get them FedExed, and I'm like, hold on a minute. These don't look like Nada. They have a little bit, the pattern's a little wrong. And some of them, like two of them were still patternless, but one of them, the pattern was coming in, and I could tell that they looked like amethystina, which I wonder, I don't know, like I'm not holding it against the guy that I got it from, because I think he actually thought they were Nata. But yeah, so I'm never getting scrubs from a Florida importer again, because they're not supposed to get amethystina. So everything that comes in from Indo is going to be labeled something else. And after that happened to me, I started looking around, and it seems like it happens a lot. There's a lot of mislabeled scrub imports.
So you don't have Tannenbars?
I do. I got some older. After that, I didn't give up.
Did you keep those babies?
Yeah, I did, actually.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. All the, like, I'm not one of those people that say, oh, I love these because they're so intelligent compared to all the other pythons.
Yeah.
I think that all the pythons are kind of the same. Like, they're bigger, like the amethystina, they're bigger, so they have more confidence, and they do have these cute big eyes. So when they're looking around, it looks like you can see like a personality behind it. So it's easy to like, say, oh, they're intelligent. Look at them, look around at stuff. And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sold on it, but I am sold on that they are adorable when they look around at you, like, and you're like, oh my God, this is so adorable. And they're the sweetest, like, tamest babies. Like, I didn't have to work with them at all. They're just tame. Like, they have a feed response because I have them right now. I have them in grow up tubs, but when I first open the tub, I have to like beware, because two of them especially have a good feed response. But that's just normal behavior from pretty much all pythons, except for these adults. They're a lot more like, they epitome the reputation of like crazy, and they do the whole they pee They pee on you. First they pee on you, and then if that doesn't charm, then they'll poop on you. They try to like bite you in the face. They go for the face. I don't do it every time, but sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm not in the mood today. I put on my hoodie and just like, if they're going to take a swipe at me, let them bite my hoodie. Because the female, she actually was acting really calm one day, and I had her and I was like cleaning out her enclosure and had her on Rum's shoulder, and she just like swiped me in the back of the head, bit me on the back of the head. It's like she was like, F you, I'm going to take my sucker punch, and like bit me in the back of the head. But I have a lot of hair, so it wasn't really that bad, but it was kind of freaky.
Wow. So do you take a lot of pride in kind of just is it just the challenge, or do you also just take pride in like finding those animals that are supposed to be difficult and then setting out to accomplish a certain task, whether it be establishing them or breeding them, or is it a package deal for you that now you have it set in your mind like this is going to happen?
I don't know if I would describe it as pride. I would say that it's a lot more interesting if you don't have the animal doesn't come with a recipe. You have to figure it out for yourself. And it keeps my mind like always, like I also have ball pythons and carpet pythons, and those animals don't like, I'm not constantly like trying to research them in the same way that I do with the like white-lipped pythons and the scrub pythons, just because I feel like there are others that are like come with like, they're like ready bake, the scrubs and the carpets.
The road's already been paved. You already know where you have to go.
It's not even that I like, it's just that curiosity. And maybe it is, I guess I am like stubborn. Like I'm like, I don't like, for instance, the green tree python enclosure behind me, that was in, I actually have all of my green tree python. Like I have 5 before I got the female that I had success with. I had 5 males, right? All my green tree pythons grew up to be boys, but
what are the odds?
They're just in like 2x2s, nothing special, just the standard perch with some of them have plants, some of them don't even have plants. And but I don't know if you ever watched the YouTube channel, what is it called? The one with Ed and Emily, it's like for kids.
Snake Discovery?
Oh yeah, Snake Discovery. So I watched one of their videos, and it was about they had the bio dude come and build them this really nice bioactive like walk-in enclosure for their green tree pythons. And because I'm curious, I have a few I don't do bioactive, but I have a few naturalistic enclosures that I keep because I do all of the above. I like to try, but not I decided I don't like bioactive, but
it's a beautiful cage you have behind you.
I like to try. Yeah, but it's not bioactive. The plants aren't planted. They're just in pots. Okay. And I can take them out. And it seems like I'm not good at plants. That's part of the problem. I'm not good at plants. And so
it kind of looks like you are.
No, once a year I have to go through and like start over.
Really? It looks so nice.
It's fine though. It makes it so that it changes. Like I've tried, sorry, I'm all over the place, but
no, I am too.
But anyways, they got all kinds of hate, like in the comments, like they didn't even let them have a shot at it. They were like, "You're gonna kill those snakes. How dare you spread this out put this out in the public to keep green tree pythons in back." And I understand that when you're shipping out a baby snake and you get so sick of these people don't do what you tell them to do with the baby snake you send them, and they put it in some bioactive. And next thing you know, it has a RI because they don't have it set up right. But I was like, that's so rude. They're so mean. It's not like these are adult snakes. They're not telling people to put baby snakes in a bioactive. They're just trying to make a nice enclosure in a zoo. This is a zoo.
Exactly.
But I was like, fuck them. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Cuss. Yeah,
it's
cussed.
okay.
But I was like, F that. I'm going to do it.
You were like, fuck that shit.
I'm going to build. And yeah, she breeds in there. She does everything in there.
That's awesome. Now, do you cohab them in there? And what's the dimensions of the enclosure?
I like to cohab too. Like people are like, don't cohab.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. I kind of, because I'm going to be cohabbing diamond pythons outdoors in larger enclosures. So I plan on cohabbing some animals, and then there's part of me too that was thinking, man, what if I did like a 2x4 by 4 foot enclosure with tons of perching options and ledges and stuff and different basking areas for my Timor pythons. And if I put a male and a female together, or maybe like a like 2 deep, 6 wide, 4 tall, something really big.
Yeah. You need it to be big enough. You need to give them options. I've cohabbed green tree pythons. I cohab my Amazon tree boas, and before I kept the Ridley-eye, the quick cave dwelling rat snakes, in the beauty snake complex. I don't know if you know.
I do not.
Yeah, so it's fine. There's like 2 main things, but probably 3 things. Is like during feeding, you have to learn. It's just paying attention to your snakes. Like if I had a snake, like I would never cohab my white lip pythons because just of how aggressive their feeding response is. But I think especially if you start them out, if you're not sure of how crazy they are, if you start them out young where they get used to being around each other and knowing that I eat my food and they eat their food, it's pretty good. Because the main things is during feeding, there's a chance that you can end up getting accidental food responses where they start biting each other. Not even necessarily that they're going to eat each other, just that they see movement and react, because movement and heat signatures are the main thing that, when you're dealing with pythons. And then the other thing is you need to make sure that they like each other enough so that if they need to share a hide or a hot spot, or make sure that they are able to, thermoregulate properly. And then the other thing is don't put 2 males together. I've had a bad experience doing that. Even though I was
with what species?
Green tree pythons. I actually had a male kill another male.
Whoa! How did he pull that off?
I thought I had a pair, and I put them together, and they cut each other. They don't do what carpet pythons do, where they wrestle. They actually go and kill. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I went in. They seemed fine, and I went in there and the next morning, and it was a horrible experience. So don't ever do that.
Wow. Specifically with chondros.
Yeah. I wouldn't, just don't, make sure you don't put, I don't even know if after that experience, don't put males together is mainly. Because
it makes sense.
If I cohab, so the male that I have in there right now, he has his own enclosure. I can take him out and put him. So that's mainly Fiona's enclosure. Okay.
Fiona. It's such a good snake name.
I didn't name her. I actually got her from Lucas Lee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
right
if I can get these babies established, if Lucas wants, he gets, I'm going to say, you can pick out whatever you want, just except not that one. I'm going to pick one, and then he gets to pick out some, whatever he wants.
Yeah, Lucas is such a good dude. So that's very interesting, and it kind of makes sense, right? Like you figure like males probably aren't hanging out too much in the wild. You know, they're competitive over mates and things. So yeah,
Yeah, and
I could see that going wrong.
yeah, and they don't do the like, carpets are known for doing the ritual, like rattlesnakes and carpets. They do the ritualized combat, and these, I think, retics will kill each other too. Are known for
Wow.
killing. I might be wrong, but I think they don't do ritualized. They just kill.
Jeez. Yeah, it's weird and like cohabbing because I'm in Florida, so I see quite a bit of our native species, especially Nerodia around the water at my work, and they're always like hanging out together. You know, like it's very rare that you see them by themselves. They're always in like a big group, like in the same tree, right? And then you'll be going around a pond and you won't see any, but at this one tree, there's like six hanging out there in this one
Yeah.
tree or shrub, so it makes you wonder if we're like taking something away from them by keeping them separated. If, like what if they like hanging out with other snakes?
Yeah, I think that they do too. I think so too. The my Amazon tree boas, they seem really social.
Hmm.
And they're really cute together. Like it's just adorable. I really enjoy it. They've never had, well, one time the female got excited and nipped at the male. She didn't really like bite him and wrap him, but um you know how cute Amazon are with
Oh
the
yeah.
big, like they look like geckos without legs, big old eyes. And so she like kind of bumped him and he turned around and they were just like looking at each other with those big like puppet eyes and was like, he was like, "What are you doing?" And she's all, "Oh, sorry." And then I just gave them their mice and they ate them. And they've been like that for like several years.
Hmm. Yeah, that would be my one concern with my Timor pythons is the female is so food aggressive now. Where I mean, like once I start feeding in the room every single time, and like if I don't see this behavior
How
now,
old is
it's
she?
she is a 23, I think, from Ryan. All my Timors are from Ryan, but I have a 22 male, and then I have a pair from 23, and yeah, she like doubled in size this year too. Like I kept her off of food for maybe like 4 or 6 weeks during like the cooler months, and then I just started feeding her, and it was like right after that first meal I gave her like two chicks, and it's like I looked at her again and I'm like, oh my God, you got so much bigger.
Ryan actually said that he bred a pair of white lips at 2 years old.
What?
Yeah.
That guy's a savage.
Yeah. And that's how, like, I mean, I'm pretty nonchalant about this. Like, I watch the females more than I watch the males for their behavior. And that's the main sign that I look for when the female goes, like, you have a white lip python and they're very food aggressive, like
Mm,
naturally. But it gets to the point where it's just like, I have to put paper over their enclosures because anytime they see movement in the room, even if I just walk in the room on the other side, like if they just see like a shadow, they'll
mm,
bash their head against the front. And that's when I know that their body is telling them to feed because their hormones are kicking in to grow follicles.
wow.
So that might be a sign that you're female. Like I actually had a bad experience last year by trying to breed a young female. And
What happened?
it was a green tree python. And she was probably, I don't know exactly how old she was, but I'm guessing she was probably like 3, maybe 4. And she was like 800 grams. And you know how Nick is like always preaching, oh, these are tiny pythons. They breed at like 500 grams.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was eating and she was gaining a little weight. And normally what I do when the female starts acting like that and I want to try to breed them, I start feeding them. And then as I see them start to build just by growing, I don't palpate or I don't have a whatchamacallit, ultrasound.
Yeah.
I just, watch their body condition. And as they start to grow, I'll start putting the male in and then they'll start breeding. And then I take them apart, keep feeding the female. And I just do that, like feed, breed, separate, feed, breed, separate until finally she'll go off food and then ovulate like a week later or so.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way I do it with the white-lipped pythons. And kind of how I've done it with this female, Fiona. But this younger female, when I put the male in with her, she went off food. She immediately went off food and she kept building. But as she was building, she just started getting this gaunt look, like her, how green pythons have that big head, that beefy, like butt cheek head.
Yeah.
It just started getting gaunt and she just started losing weight and she wouldn't eat. And when she finally did ovulate, 3 days later, she died. And I think it was because she just was too thin. So I don't know, like I didn't expect that to happen because I had been trying to breed Fiona for 2 years and she would eat and breed and then she would go off food and then would not breed and then she would go into a shed and then reabsorb her follicles. So I never thought a female would go through with the whole thing. Like I thought that their body would automatically, like if they didn't have the resources, their body would just stop. But I don't know why, or if it was just because she was young and maybe the way I had the room set up, her body just kept going. And so I'm never going to do that again. I'm going to make sure these females are nice, good size,
So what's a good age for you in your opinion, or are you going more based off of body composition and weight?
Yeah, I would do that. Like the reason why I brought it up is because you said that your female was, because if she was older and I don't know what her body looks like and you noticed a clear change in her personality, like that to me tells me that she is mature or, but she's probably, because she's so young, she might be, I'm like, part of me wants to be like, oh, you should feed her a big old giant rat, like the biggest rat you've ever fed her, and put the male in there and see what happens. But after that experience I had last year, I would be like, oh, she's only a 2023. I would just like, just what you did to her, giving her that fast and then feeding her, it clicked her body into like, that's what I do. You have to give them a fast. And then that's kind of like, how everyone brumates the colubrids because they're North American, like they're northern species, like they get cool. Everyone thinks it's the cooling, but I think it has more to do with that fast that they go through, because the cool temperature, it's the fast, because even if you fast a python and then bring her back up, it seems like that clicks in. And as soon as she starts eating again, she's like, because ball pythons, they fast themselves, like they go off food. And so you don't really have to fast them, but they fast themselves. But I'm just saying, oh, never mind. Don't do that to your female. She might not be ready. But Ryan, he's a lot more experienced than me. Like this, the expert and the idiot and the idiot. Are the novice and the idiot. Like, I'm taking some hits like last year that I felt so bad after that, because I was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I should have known better.
Mm.
Like I should have just looked at her body condition more than like, oh, she's big enough now.
Yeah, it's weird because I look at some of my animals and I'm like, man, I love this animal so much that I don't want to breed them because I don't want something to go wrong and I don't want to lose this animal. Like
Yeah.
they're too important to me
Yeah,
as a pet,
it's awful because that female was like the sweetest green tree python. From the moment I got her, she never struck at me. She was a Biak too, and she was just a sweetheart. And so it sucked really, really bad. But the thing that I think I've heard you talk about how like, oh, I don't want to breed my female because it'll change like your Argentines, like you have really sweet Argentines. And I used to, the first time I bred the white-lipped pythons, people would message me and ask me, oh, do you have a male? Do you have a female? Like, which one do you recommend? And they're known for being very, I would say they're actually one of the aggressive snakes. Like they're aggressive, like they deserve their reputation. Like they aren't all like that, but so I had a really, really sweet female, very, very sweet, like as sweet as any snake that I have. And after she became mature, I have to watch her because her personality changed. And I had never bred her at that point. It was just her hormones kicked in and they become very, very food aggressive.
Yeah, Paul Duran experienced that with his scrub python female as well.
Yeah, it's true. And it's not that their personality changes. It's just that their hormones kick in and they get the munchies.
Yeah,
they're like, get out, give me food.
Yeah, it's I didn't realize that with rabbits too, that because I breed rabbits and the females are so aggressive. Like once they have babies, like they come at you and they like punch at you with their little front feet. Like they try to
mama bears.
They try to stab you with their nails, and it's kind of crazy. And the male is just so laid back. And when you actually breed them, you have to put the female in the male's cage, because if you put the male in the female's cage, she could kill the male, just because they're so territorial. So yeah, you have to read their body language, because that, like, if you go in there to put food in, like the females, especially when they have babies, she'll like put her ears down and be like, I will mess you up, bro. Like, get out of here, So yeah, it's, I think that those hormonal changes that you're talking about, that's got to be like across multiple species where the females just, something changes,
Yeah. And it's cool that you notice that some people just don't notice it. Because I try to tell people, well, watch your female when she starts getting more food aggressive. That's when you'll know it's time to start feeding her heavier, and then they'll start to build it. It's with them, because I keep them at like I don't keep them skinny, but I keep them lean. And so once she starts building, it's really obvious.
That's so interesting. I'm going to definitely keep that in the back of my mind, when it is time to, start pairing animals. Just watching, that's like one more thing to do, right? Because so many times, like we have, like, at least me, like I'm taking in all this information of like, okay, so they're going to go through a cooling period, which is going to happen naturally because the temperature drops here and the ambient will go down, and I'm going to reduce the light period, and I'm going to fast them and all these things. But what are you looking for the snake to do behaviorally to tell you that the stimulus change that you're inducing is actually causing something to happen,
Yeah. When you were fasting her, was she at first, she seemed hungry, like she was looking for food. And then after, as you got farther into the fast, did you notice her just settle down and just be like, okay, I'm not eating now? Did you notice that? because I noticed that it's almost like they don't hibernate, but they just accept that this is a dormant time, and they just go into their hide and wait.
Yeah, she was definitely hiding a lot more. And she did. I think in the beginning, yeah, she was very keyed up, because they're so much like retics. I mean, I have no experience with retics, but watching videos of retics and their feed response, like once they're established into your snake room and their enclosure, they're very confident hunters, and so I did notice she got really keyed up when I would feed other younger snakes that were still eating, like snakes that are under a year old. Is that if that smell got in the air, like I'd look over and she'd be like coiled up, like in the S position up in a branch looking at me like, okay, come on, where's mine? But I think that kind of went away as time went on. And
Yeah.
then I thought when I brought her back and started hitting her with food again every 2 weeks, I thought, let me do the chicks because, you talk to people that talk about these animals that are, on these islands and the bird migrations and everything. So I thought, well, chicks, when I got them, I like loaded up on them because they're cheap. Like they were cheaper than rats at the time. So I have a kind of a surplus of them, and they're like crack for the Timors too.
Yeah, the Tanimars, they love the chicks too. They're like, but I use chicks when they're like not so much fasting, but they're just doing a maintenance diet because I think there's hardly any calories in those little chicks. It's mostly roughage plus a
Do you do
fiber.
any maternal incubation?
I tried it one time and it was a horrible, like I was very nonchalant about it. I didn't like it was with one of my ball pythons, and the she kept moving the eggs off of the heat, and I was like, oh crap. I was worried about the ambience not being warm enough, and I bumped up the heat, and it actually like I'm telling you all these like really bad, like I should keep in the closet. Like, oh yeah, I put two male green tree pythons together and they died. One of them died. But yeah, so
I think these are the
it
things we
cooks
should
them.
be talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I feel awful. Believe me, I feel awful every time
Yeah.
something goes wrong.
Oh, so do I. Trust me. You feel like a terrible human being.
Yeah,
It's
you're like, what am I doing? I'm creating misery in the world.
I
But
talk about every mistake I make on here though.
well,
Everything I do wrong,
so
I talk about.
this is going to be gruesome, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. So
Okay.
there is like 10 eggs, and couple bottom eggs, they died right away, and they got moldy, and like maggots started getting up. So I pulled those out. That was disgusting. But then the eggs that were left, the ones that were lower to the ground, because they were in a rack system on belly heat, and they desiccated so much that the babies, when they tried to get out, they were actually like stuck to the shell. Their skin was, so they couldn't get out. But I was so surprised that they hatched. Like they pipped, and I thought they were going to be fine, but after they pipped and their head was out, and then they died. And later on, when I cut them open, that's how I discovered what caused what. But ended up with 4 babies that made it out of that.
That's so
But
sad.
yeah, right? Like that seems like a horrible way to die.
Yeah.
Um
How do you feel about, like, what do you prefer to keep in racks or enclosures?
Enclosures. I have a very small collection of ball pythons. And I keep them in racks. I have one ball python that I keep in an enclosure. She's an old rescue. She's big, big ball python. I keep her in an enclosure, and I struggle with that one. She pushes. She's like my only snake that does that. And so I'm constantly having to fiddle around with her enclosure, trying to figure out what will make her happy. And I struggle with her. But
What size enclosure is she in?
She's in a 3 foot by 2 foot by 15, I think, tall.
Okay. Yeah.
She has a little shelf. She has hides around, with humid hides. She sheds fine. I don't struggle. Like, that's one of the thing about ball pythons is they're hard. It's hard to get out of all the snakes I have that are notorious for having stuck sheds. Ball pythons are the only ones that I've ever had problems with that. Like the white lips and the green tree pythons shed fine. The scrub pythons shed fine. But
oh yeah, speaking of scrub pythons, let's get back to talking about them and getting them established. The tannenbars.
Yeah, so they were in their quarantine rack for about, I had them in there for about 5 months. They were eating okay. The female eats great. I feel really good about her. The male, he will sometimes eat and sometimes won't eat.
And how old are they? The male's definitely an adult. They're about 5 feet, maybe. Okay. The male might be 5'5". Like he's like, I can hold him up and I'm 5'5" and he's about my length. And the female, she's about 5 feet. She was smaller than the male, but she eats great and she's put on a lot of weight. And but anyways, I set them up for a co-hab enclosure, a big 5 by 2 by 2. And I have like big log for them to sit on. I have basking, I put plants in there to obscure them. I have hanging hides, ground hides, tube hides on the wall. I put paper on the front of their enclosure because this is the thing is, by the way they act in the tubs. Mm-hmm. So they're so sensitive. They don't like me at all. They're very afraid of me. And you get different types of, like, the white lip pythons are known for being very aggressive, so everyone says defensive. And so the white lips will they get really worked up and they just want to fight you. But I never feel like that they're stressed, even though that's like a stress response. I just feel like that's just how they are. Mm-hmm. Like that's the white lip personality. And it's not necessarily a stressed out behavior. That they're just like, oh, I've been waiting for you to get here. I'm putting on my I've been waiting for this. Like they want to fight. But I feel like these animals, they are stressed and they are doing a defense response. And they, like, at first, if every time I would have to interact with them to clean their enclosure, other than getting them water and closing that, they would stop eating. Like they wouldn't want to eat. Like they'd be like, oh, I'm fucking too stressed to eat that right now. And, but I had them where it was pretty good. Like I had it set up so that I gave them hides so that I could just pick up if they're in the hide, I could just pick it up, put it down, and then clean out their tub. And then I felt like they were more established enough. They've been tested. They weren't showing any signs of any illness, and it had been 5 months. And so I moved them into this big enclosure that I had been working on, getting the temperatures dialed in. And the female started to get a rub abrasion. She was rubbed. I never saw her rubbing, but she must have been doing it in the middle of the night when I was asleep. And then the male went off food, and I got him to eat a chick, and the next thing you know, there's like diarrhea and there's roundworms in the diarrhea. Oh, no.
So I'm like, okay, you guys are going back into your quarantine. So I have them back in their quarantine again. And they're both going through a round of dewormer.
Ugh.
So I had to do that. And with all the wild caught stuff I've had, this is the first time I've seen that.
Yeah.
But I went ahead since I did all the research, and I have the Mater's reptile, and I followed the guide on how to deworm. And so I also gave it to one of my import green tree pythons that he always seems kind of scrawny, and I don't know for sure that he has roundworms, but I kind of, because he reminds me of, he acts the same way as that other male. So I'm doing that with them. They're doing fine. They're back on food, but they're getting wormed.
And what is that wormer? Do you know? Is it like ivermectin or something like that?
Panicure.
Oh, okay, Panicure. Okay.
It's just it's the same thing that we give to the farm animals and our cats and dogs. And
boy, that sucks. That whole thing sucks. You know, it's like, and I'm kind of going through something similar right now. I had
it made sense. I'm pretty sure it's the male, but since I was cohabbing them, this is the other. I guess this is another reason why you don't cohab, is because, because she was eating fine, I suspect it was him. Because he was the one that I had trouble with eating. So maybe he was always just having a upset stomach. Yeah. But because I had them together, if they were both drinking out of their water bowls, I don't know, somehow they, he could have given it to her. So I have to worm her too.
Yeah, better to be safe than sorry. If he pooped and she went through it or something, you know, who knows?
Yeah, I wanted to just like light my house on fire. When I saw it, I was like, that's like one phobia that I have, is like, I cannot stand.
Oh yeah,
parasites.
I have I have a severe phobia of Nido or Serpentovirus. So if anything gets the slightest sniffles, I'm like, all right, you are, even if they're in quarantine, then they go to another rack further away, and like in isolation, like total solitude.
Yeah. So far that they haven't shown anything like that. It's not that. It's just I mean, I should probably worm all of my animals now that I think about it, but if they're not showing any symptoms of it, I guess not. But it's really makes me wash my hands a lot more. I'm washing them. I'm like, did I wash my hands? Well, I'm going to wash them again. Can you pick
that up from them? Can people?
Oh, I'm sure that you can. And I know that Dan Mallory got worms, and Brian Barczyk got worms. And so I'm like, I'm gonna, next time I go to the doctor, I'm gonna be like, can you test me for worms?
Oh man, that's so gross.
I know.
But I mean, you got to figure.
Don't lick your hands. Don't lick your fingers.
I wash my hands excessively to begin with.
Did I wash them? I'm gonna wash them again. Wash them again.
Yeah.
My fingers are my nails are like, my cuticles are always cracked.
Yeah. Oh man, my knuckles are so cracked right now because all my family was puking their brains out. My one kid started puking. 48 hours later, my wife started puking. 48 hours later, my other kids started puking. And then they had like fevers and COVID. And I'm just like obsessively, compulsively washing my hands and Cloroxing the house with wipes and like rocking in a corner. And I never got sick.
Wow.
But yeah, my knuckles were literally bleeding. Like it looked like I had like 15 paper cuts on each knuckle. It was crazy. But yeah.
Did you take vitamin C or anything like that?
No, I don't think vitamin C does a whole lot. If you're not deficient in it, I do take zinc and D3 and like fish oil and stuff like that. But I do, like, whenever anybody starts getting sick, I do eat a ton of oranges, just like, I think like subconsciously, I'm just like, this will help me stay healthy, you know? But yeah, it's wild when, I mean, and same thing, like if one of my snakes gets the sniffles, it freaks me out. I go on this like downward OCD spiral of cleaning and disinfecting.
Yeah. I had early on. So I'm relatively new. Like I'm a late bloomer. I'm not one of those people that have been keeping snakes their whole life. And
When did you start
I
keeping?
did have in 2016. I got
Oh,
my ball python. Then
geez
I
Louise,
got
that's like almost a decade's worth of experience, Lisa.
yeah, but I'm not not expert.
Yeah,
But
you are, or you wouldn't be here.
I did get a snake that got RA, and he just never went back on food. And that was I didn't know that there was such thing as snake viruses, but I don't know if that I part of it I think was my husbandry.
Well, yeah, our husbandry can show us where, or
I
it
didn't
can,
even realize he was sick, and he went into a shed. He was thin, he wasn't eating, and he went into a shed, and when he came out of the shed, it was just like mucus, and then he had like mouth rot, and um it was just like not a it I think it was husbandry, like, but it could have been that maybe he was carrying the nidovirus.
totally.
I didn't know.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I mean, after I recently talked to Stephen Tillis, and it sounds like if they go into shed and they're, you know, going through some minor stressors and they start presenting symptoms like that, it's probably nido. You know, I mean, I think that, I don't know, after talking to him, I think that there's like, it's like out there, you know, like it's out there, and there's so many different kinds of strains, and, you know, who knows how, you know, how prevalent it is in collections, you know? But it seems like it just like weakens their immune system and just leaves them open for bacterial infections like mouth rot or an RI or, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, me personally, I'm taking it so seriously now. If I see any kind of an RI, no matter how minor it is, I'm gonna swab that and send it in and get it checked and get it tested. And
yeah, I hope you can get him on to talk about that at some point.
Yeah,
That
for
would
sure.
be really
yeah.
helpful.
I'm stoked. Me and the whole family are going to see him next weekend, so that'll be fun. We're gonna go up there and spend the day with Steven and check out some of his animals.
Doesn't he have baby Somalia Tracyi?
The Halmaheras.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm hoping he has them, and I'm hoping I'm allowed to see them. I don't know if if that'll be part of the collection that's open to the public.
The one that keeps them in like a grow tent.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that, you know, just trying to, I think it's neat that he does that. I don't think I would want to do it because you can't really, it's not a good viewing. Like you can't watch them, but I
think that they have ones with like a clear vinyl door now.
Oh,
so you can actually
I was
watch.
wondering if that was part of the secret to his success, is that, you know,
privacy.
They can't see. Yeah. Cause I think that I'm starting to think that, some of these harder to breed scrub pythons is because that they get stressed out. Like the baby amethystina that I got, they're not stressed out at all, but they're the bigger species. I think Tracyi can get big, but they're known for being more petite. I think like thinner, maybe like they're more lean compared, like not lean. They're just more lanky. Yeah,
they're very small, and apparently they like die for no reason, like out of nowhere.
And I think it's stress, like how stressed out these animals get compared to the other species that I've dealt with.
Yeah, and you know, I was recently talking about this where we were talking about this on the Discord for the channel or for the podcast, and we were talking about how like stress is beneficial, right? Like we often put ourselves into stressful, challenging situations, whether it's pursuing like a job or whether it's something as simple as exercising or running, right? These are all like stressors, and they're temporary but beneficial. But the long-term stress that's just like always present, that's what causes disease. That's what weakens your immune system and gets you sick, you know?
Like, I think moving them from their quarantine rack into the big enclosure, even though I tried my best to make it so that they could feel secure in there,
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if that's why the parasites were just overload and
Proliferating.
yeah, and they got diarrhea because they never had diarrhea. They didn't have diarrhea in the quarantine. I never saw any like weird stools.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and that's
and then I moved them in there, and I started getting rubbing issues, and so now I have them back in the quarantine, and I do eventually want to get them out of there, but I'm going to put them in much smaller enclosures, probably smaller than what someone would say that a boreal snake should be in, but I'm going to keep them in small enclosures. But I want them in, because I don't like racks because you can't observe their behavior. It's a lot harder to know what is going on with them. You know, you can't see like, oh, they're on the warm side, they're on the cool side, they're showing hunting behavior. In the rack, it's just like open it up, see like, oh God, what's going on? Like, it's no behavior. You don't learn anything from racks. But they do have their place. Like for quarantine, I like racks.
100%. Yeah. Keep on paper so you can see everything.
The ball pythons do well in racks. They're not the ones that I have. I have 4 in racks, and well, no, I have 7 now. Because I got some babies last year, and they're still in baby racks actually. But you know, whatever. Some people are like very against racks, but I do use racks.
Yeah. I think that they're fantastic for quarantine. But at the same time, it's like sometimes sometimes I wonder if keeping in the rack is not ideal, and that could expose a potential problem while in quarantine. And if that is the case, that's actually beneficial, right? Like if they're stressed out by like, I don't have much space, I can't do
that's
fun
why
activities.
Everybody was telling me that, once you get them, because I was expressing that sometimes this male doesn't want to eat, and in different groups with other people who are keeping them, and they were like, once I moved them into their enclosure where they could perch, they just like came out of their shell, and you'll see. And so I was expecting that, and I don't know, but I'm wondering if they put them in smaller enclosures. Maybe I put them in, because they are small snake. They're small snakes, like 5 feet is an adult, and they're not thick. They're small. They remind me a lot of the Amazon tree boas.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. What size tub are they in right now?
They're in CB70s. And they both have hides. They have a water bowl in the middle, and a hide in the front, and hide in the back where the heat tape is. And I catch them they move back and forth between hides.
When they're done with their round of dewormer and everything, could you potentially take the hides and put like covers on them, like corrugated plastic or something? Just something.
I did that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know all the things. Like I did that. They had their original hides. I put so many hides in there. I put hides with sphagnum moss, without sphagnum moss.
Yeah.
But I feel confident that, like, I feel, especially with the female, I feel encouraged, and I feel encouraged that maybe this is why the male wasn't eating. It wasn't that he was stressed out. It's that he had a parasite load And,
Yeah.
I might get different behavior, but I'm not going to put them back into that same enclosure. I'm going to get them their own enclosures each.
Hmm.
And they're going to be smaller, and they're going to have, it's going to be more like how I keep my white lip pythons,
Yeah.
where it's going to be paper, and then they'll have a humidity hide on each side of their enclosure, kind of similar to how the tub is, just that I'm going to be able to watch them.
Okay. Do you think white lip pythons are good for people that really like interacting with their snakes?
So the white lip pythons are weird because there are some that, like I said, they're very, very chill and you can interact with them. And like my male, he seems to enjoy getting out because he's really, he's always horny. So he'll come out, and he loves smelling every little thing. He's looking for a girl. So he enjoys coming out and interacting. The females, I feel like they don't enjoy it as much. They like to just chill in their hides.
Mm.
Um,
So if
but
you were to get a pet white lip, you think a male would be better?
yeah. So my first clutch, I was heavy on females, and I had someone contact me who wanted one just as a pet. And they wanted a male, and they were telling me that they had always heard that the females are bitches. And I was like, what? They're both bitches. Like, males are bitches too. And I'm like, no, they're both bitches. And now I'm like, I totally agree with what he was saying.
The males are just horny bitches.
Yeah, I'm like, they're all bitches. They're just, like he hisses, like they're very vocal snakes. They were like, he'll be slithering around you, and it'll be like, tss, tss.
Mm.
And it would probably put people off that aren't used to it, but he's not aggressive.
Do you ever go to feed your snakes and notice that they do like a hiss when they like bite and wrap?
Yeah.
That's like my favorite thing. And it's
which ones do you have? The white lips do it all the time. They'll, like, if I'll have a wet rat, they'll be like, and it'll sound like they're like blowing bubbles. They're holding it and they're like hissing, but they look like they're breakdancing because they're like wrapping it so much. They're like,
oh, I know. Yeah. So
which ones do that for you?
So I noticed it yesterday that like quite a few did it all when I fed them. And one of them's my boa imperators. She grabbed and she's like, as she wraps it. And I'm like, that was cool. And then I go and feed my female Timor, and they always, so they're in 4x2x2s, and I have these like branches. This is my male Timor here. And they're always up in the branches at feeding time, right? Because I go in after all the lights are off. So they're out, and they're usually up in the branches.
Do they
waiting.
hang and wrap their food?
It's so like cool. Every time, single time.
That is cool.
Yeah. And I always try to encourage them to come out of their enclosure as much as possible to get their feeder. But I always underestimate how far their reach is when they strike. So when I hold that feeder up, well, no, thankfully not. But I'll hold the feeder up and keep it like 6 inches away and be like, come on out. And they always just bam, grab it and yank it back. Yeah. And they're so strong, it's stupid, and they anchor themselves to the branch.
Do they wrap the rat so many times where you're like, how can they even like get that many coils around? Like they make the rat pretty much crush every bone in the rat's body. Yeah,
and I've had a couple rats explode. Which is disgusting.
Yeah, that's like one of the times when you're like, what have I done to my life? Like, what is going on? I'm wiping up rat guts.
It smells so extraordinarily bad.
Yeah, gagging, cleaning up rat guts, going like, one time one of my friends was over. She's not a reptile person. And I brought her into my, spare room where all my snakes are. And I have this plate that it's my rat plate, and I had them up there because I was going to feed that night, and she saw them and she was like, "Oh my God." And then she's like, "That's not normal." And she left the room. And I'm like, well, it's normal to a lot of us. Like some people, it's normal.
I will say the exploding rat smell actually like that, like there's not many smells that make me go like, you know, and that got me.
Literally
that got
like
me.
trying not to puke while cleaning up.
Yep.
I'm like, this is like Dexter territory, like cleaning up guts.
It smells like boiled beef liver with like, with feces mixed into it. Like it's just the worst possible smell.
Yeah, I've been struggling trying to get these babies to eat, and I was keeping fire skinks for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I have one at my male. He was an old, and he passed away. And I wrapped him up and put him in my freezer just for this time. Like, I always wanted to get baby green tree pythons, and I thought, well, this could be a scenting thing mm-hmm. that I could use in the future. And I'm like chopping off pieces of my pet lizard.
Oh no!
To use as a scent, and I'm like, it made me think of my friend when she said that's not normal, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't normal. And
this isn't normal, guys.
This is messed up. Like, what am I doing? I don't want to do this anymore. So
I know.
I wrapped him up and put him back in the freezer. I'm like, why? I should have just buried him or something.
We lost some of our baby rabbits. Like when female rabbits have like their first litters, they don't know what to do with the babies and they don't know how to take care of them properly. Usually the first litter goes bad from what I've read on the internet and from personal experience. And so the babies just like all meandered out of the nest at night and froze to death because it was not literally froze because we're in Florida, but it was 40 degrees and it was too cold for them.
Died of exposure. Yeah,
exactly. And, some of the babies, I was like, all right, these literally died last night. They're preserved in like refrigerator temperatures. So I'm just going to save them for feeders. And like, I'm putting them in bags and I'm like, this doesn't feel right. You know, this feels weird.
I heard you talk about, using the rabbits to feed your family. And I'm like, oh, just wait till you're butchering those rabbits, Adam. You might change your mind.
It's not going well. So our male, Attila the Bun, passed away, which was devastating because I love that rabbit. I could hold him like a little baby and he would just lay there and I would bring him in the house and he'd interact with the dog. And it devastated our kids and it was very sad. And we buried him. I don't know how he died. It could have been anything. It could have been he just jumped in his cage and broke his own neck, which happens. But now we have 9 of his offspring and I'm sitting there and it's like, okay, yay, we get to pick holdbacks. Like we actually get to, keep some of these babies now, which I'm so happy about because they're the cutest animals in the entire world. And I'm like, how am I going to...
They do die easy. I have a friend who's a rabbit keeper and they can die just from being scared. You can scare them to death.
Yeah.
They're kind of weak animals, but they're food. That's why, because they're food.
Yeah. Yeah. They're very prolific. I mean, that's why they reproduce at such
We
high
had
rates.
rabbits when I was a kid and we were growing them for food. Right. And, that's what happened. My dad, he butchered some up for us and my mom fried them up like chicken. And then none of the kids would eat it. We were like, we are not eating them. They are our rabbits.
Yeah.
And it was like it was a very traumatic experience for the whole family. Like my dad hated it. He was like, he was mad at my mom for making him do it. My mom's the cold-blooded one that was like, don't butcher those rabbits.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. I think it's going to take getting used to, but I think it's important because we're so far disconnected from what food is and where it comes from and what's necessary, and that you are taking a life. you're responsible for the death of a cow or a chicken or
Yeah.
whatever you're eating, no matter what. And so I want to be more in touch with that.
Yeah. I feel like just even with like feeding the snakes, at first it was pretty hard, like the rats, like,
Hmm.
you know, and then you start getting used to it just you have to get over that the
Yep.
mental block that you have.
Yeah, I mean, I used to raise my own rats and slaughter them and feed them to my snakes
Yeah.
back when I used to keep, and getting back into it, just having frozen, it was like, ugh, there's this hairy thing that I have to thaw out. It's and then you just get desensitized to it, and now
Yeah. So
yeah, it
you'll
is what
get
it
used
is.
to it. You'll get used to it is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to get desensitized to it, and grow them up to the point that they're not so adorable anymore.
Yeah.
When they're babies, they're too damn
Hold
cute.
back the ugly ones.
No, I'm holding back. I'm keeping alive the cutest, fattest,
It's
friendliest
just gonna
ones.
make your job harder.
Well, no, the
You're
holdbacks
gonna
we're
torture
keeping.
yourself.
The holdbacks are the breeders. The other ones
But
are all going
what
to
I'm
be.
saying is they'll make cute babies. The
Oh
breeders are
yeah,
gonna make like you're just perpetuating your pain.
yeah. It's a catch-22. Either way, I'm going to have to kill cute animals.
Yeah, they're all cute. What am I saying?
Yeah. The it's interesting, you were talking about going into the big enclosure and having, kind of a negative experience, and I just went through a really positive experience myself. All my long-term jungles that I've had for probably damn near a year now, that have been in tubs in Iraq, just went into 4x2 by 2.5 tall enclosures, and they're all doing fantastically. And the male that went off food in his tub, and I ended up having to resort to quail and then chicks, and now he's on chicks, would never take a feeder from me. I would have to put it in very politely and then close the tub and walk away. And he would eat in private, but he would never take it from me. He was offended that I would even put it in front of him. And but he would consistently eat, but drop feeding only. And now that he's in the enclosure, he's been hanging in his branches in his hunting position. And I can go in there. I went in there last night with a chick, and for the first time ever, he grabbed it off the tongs ferociously and
I was
coiled it
hoping
up.
that would happen with the tandem bars, but I think that
I know. I'm so sad it didn't.
I think that they're just very stressed out by me and knowing that seeing me. It's not that I don't think it's that I set it up wrong, because I tried. Well, maybe I did, but I tried really hard to do everything to make it so that they felt secure.
I think you did.
But I think it's just that they were adults, wild caught, and they're
It's an
used
uphill
to the
battle.
jungle. Yeah, but I think that I'm just gonna baby step it, like move them into the smaller enclosures and see how that goes. And
Yeah. I think that you can do everything right and shit still happens.
yeah,
It's, I was talking to Kara Norris yesterday. Do you know Kara? She does blood pythons.
I don't. I've heard of her. She's very famous with the blood pythons. Isn't her company like Blood Cell?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I've heard of her, but I've never met her or talked to her.
Yeah, she is one of my favorite people now. She's got emus, and I was talking to her for the first time on the phone, and I told her, I was like, I'm kind of like, there's points of time where I just go, I don't want to breed any of my animals. I just want to keep them because I'm afraid that I'm going to go to breed them and something will go wrong and I'll lose that animal. And she's like, yeah, and you could walk outside your house and get hit by a car.
Yeah.
Like stuff can go wrong regardless. You could not breed your animal and something could go wrong, so I think that perspective was good to have.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all about the breeding. Like, I love it. It's part of the experience and seeing the whole life cycle of especially the females, how they start out with one personality and then they change, and it makes you, and then the males will change too, where, like I said, that my male white lip, he's just, you can tell he has mainly two things on his mind: eating and breeding. And sometimes it's only breeding, but it's just helps me understand their behaviors. But I'm really happy that there are people like Lori Trini and oh God, what was the last guest you had on?
Shiraloa?
Yes, I like. It's exciting that there are people like that, because a lot of the times you get a pet snake and like, because I'm in the breeding hobby, I just think, oh, I'm going to breed this. This is what you do with your snakes. But there's a lot you can do with your snakes, and building these like wonderful enclosures and, doing the target training. Like, it's things you can do with your pet snakes other than breeding. And I'm glad that it's becoming more popular, because I wonder if that was more pervasive in the hobby, if maybe I would have gone down that path rather than this path, and it would have been a different experience.
Yeah, I think that I want to come at it from sort of a hybrid approach and try to get the best of both worlds, if that's possible, where I keep them as pets and enjoy their behavior and incorporate breeding as part of that. That's, like, it's not my number one focus. Is like, that's not my, I don't have to, I'm not going to say I'm successful at keeping because I bred the animals. But I know that I'm probably going to feel that when it happens. I think I'm going to feel that. I think I'm going to feel like, oh, nice. Like, because I think that breeding is like such a thing that you have to nail so many things and get it right. Right. As far as
especially with the more difficult species like the Timor pythons, very rarely bred.
I don't think I'm ever going to pull that off.
I want you to. I want you to.
So do I. And I mean, I have good stock, right?
I don't know why. It's like, I'm like, oh, I really hope Adam, like that. It's like part of the mentality, just like the time I got in, when you would Google like ball python or Google green tree python, you would get sent to, podcasts of people talking about how they breed their snakes. And so in my mind, I'm like, oh, I really hope Adam does it. Like, I want you
thank
to.
You, Lisa. I appreciate that. Yeah, I hope
I think you can, like, just from talking to you, like saying that you notice the subtle changes. I think that shows to me that, like, you probably can do it. Like,
well, you know what I'm going to admit to right now that kind of depresses me is that I was noticing those behavior changes, but I wasn't acknowledging them. I wasn't, you kind of translated that for me.
You know what? I wonder, like, I've thought about this before, and I don't know if it's true, but because you hear a lot of, in the podcast, there's like a lot of guys that are talking about breeding their snakes, and they're always talking about their male snakes' behavior changing. And I'm over here talking about the female snakes' behavior changing. And I'm like, I wonder if this is like a guy thing and versus a girl thing. Like, I'm like, oh, she's hormonal right now. Like, she's like,
yeah.
Like, I identify with the female more than the male, like, and then the guys identify with the male.
Yeah, they're like, oh, he's pacing. Bro wants to get out.
Yeah, he needs to go. He's got blue balls.
Yeah, that is funny. That does make sense. I'm gonna be hitting you up a lot more, Lisa. I need you to interpret my female's behavior changes, because I
think that you've got it. Just the males do pace, and then the females, they don't pace until after they ovulate. Then I've noticed pacing where they want a nest. Like, if you don't give them the proper nest, they'll want out and they want to go nest. But and the females just get hungry. They get hungry. Especially I notice it happening in the springtime and in the fall. They'll do it both times. And I
Yeah.
think that they sense this subtle temperature changes, and maybe like, even though these animals are from like tropical, like equatorial areas, they are I think they're really sensitive to the seasonal changes.
Yeah, and that's what I remember. They talked about that on the NPR episode about Timor pythons, which is like one of my favorite episodes that they've ever done because it's so good and there's so much information there, and it's like incredible how much effort they put into that. But
Did
they
you
talk.
ever? Oh, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Oh, they talk about how the barkers were just. I think they were feeding them hamsters. Their Timors hamsters until like the female wanted to puke, basically. Just feed them as much as they could possibly take. Like if they were still hungry, just feed it more,
Yeah.
and keep going.
Yeah, like and have you read the complete carpet python book?
I have it.
Not the new one, the old one.
No, not the old one.
This is blasphemy, but I kind of like that one a little more because there's a chapter in there written by Ben Morrow,
Okay.
and it's about python reproduction, and he used a lot of data that was kept by TS, the snake keeper, that like tons of data with their ball pythons where they talk about the feeding schedules. And so everyone says that the pythons are capital. Oh, I forget. But anyways, like they store up energy and then they breed. And but I've noticed that like what you said, you just feed them while they're breeding. Like you just feed them so much. And I think it's that bump in the spike in the food. It's like they need to be conditioned before that.
Mm-hmm.
But then once they get to that point where they're in good condition, and then they suddenly get a real spike in the food. And the barkers did that. And then also that guy, is it the Gourmet Rodent or something like that? They had Timors too.
Yeah.
And that guy was on the Unfiltered podcast. It's like a really long 3-hour long podcast. It's kind of annoying because you have to listen to all this business talk where they talk about keeping a business that I'm not really as interested in.
Yeah.
But finally, like in the middle or towards the end, they start talking about feeding his Timors. And he said the same thing. You have to feed them until you think they're going to puke.
Interesting. Yeah, it'll be.
And everyone says they have to be a lot older.
That's what I've heard. I know.
That's why I was curious that you said yours is a 2023 and she's already changing in her personality.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder if she's just really comfortable where she's at. Because I keep my Timors on the upper level too, because I thought that they would be more comfortable and confident being higher up rather than lower down, where my dog might walk by or something like that.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, just knowing that they're kind of more nervous. I was trying to give them everything that they could possibly want, and to feel more confident. Like like
they have the higher ground.
Yeah, and Ron St. Pierre said that too. That he tries to put his emeralds up high, so that way they have that confidence where they feel like they're away from everything dangerous.
Yeah, I saw some YouTube channel was doing a tour of Reptilandia in Texas, and they had the emeralds and the green tree pythons in these really tall enclosures, and they were both like way up to the like very top of the enclosure.
I want to go there so bad.
Yeah, me too. I think I'm going to try to go for the Carpet Fest
nice.
that they have in October.
Sweet.
No promises, but I'm going to try to make it this year.
Yeah. Hey, just so you know, Shira Loa wants a white lip python, so you'll have to hook her up.
I have one male left from my 2024 clutch. I didn't pair him again this year.
Just giving them a year off.
Yeah. And I'm like, let someone else with other genes. Cause I just, if all the captive bred animals right now are being produced by the same pair. Unfortunately, I did have another female that laid for me, but I did something wrong with the incubation and they died like a week. Every egg was perfect. And then all of a sudden, it was like 10 days before they were set to pip, they started molding and I kind of opened and they're all perfect babies dead in the egg. I don't, I use like a rinky dink, like I made one of those cooler baiters,
Yeah.
Everything I do, I'm like trying to like do it on the cheap. Like you said of dark garden herpetoculture, I just made that because last year I was trying to do some shows just to see how it felt. And so I made up that dark garden. But this isn't really a business for me. It's like completely a hobby.
Well, yeah, I was putting the show together and like putting the intro slide together. And I'm like, what does she go by? Like, where is your morph market? Like, I can't find anything.
I don't know.
And then I just looked at your logo and I'm like, oh, there's print down there under the girl with the watering can.
I don't even advertise. Like when I have animals, people just like, I'll see someone post in like the white lip group, oh, I'm looking for a baby. And I'll say, I have one. And then they're like, they think I'm just a scammer because they're like, who is this person? They don't exist on Morph Market and I have to be like, here's the pictures of the babies. And I've been on these podcasts.
If you know, you know.
Okay. You have to do the special knock and prove to me that you're a white lip lover.
And you work with Southerns or Northerns too?
I have. So I got, after I hatched the baby Southerns out, I did some trades and I got some captive bred Northerns now. So I have 1.2 Northerns that I'm growing up. And everyone says the Northerns are the mean ones and the Southerns are the nice ones. And I'm here to tell everyone once and for all that it's not true. They're both hit and miss. The thing is that when they're bad, they're really bad. And then when they're good, they're really good. It's like, but they all have extreme feed responses, which makes them really fun to keep. Their bites, when they do bite you, they have very small teeth. So knock on wood, I've never had a bad bite. And it's always like, it scares you more than it hurts. They have very small teeth for their size. And for the most part, I don't get bit. It's not, they are aggressive and you have to know how to deal with that type of an animal, but like, I don't want to play him down, but it's not as bad as if you look and see, like, it seems like women are really, there's a lot of women keepers that have white lips. Like we like sparkly snakes. They're
I was ready for some deep explanation.
No,
you're like,
they're so
sparkly.
Stunning. They're so gorgeous. Like they look like diamonds. Like,
yeah, they are.
They're fire opals. They look like fire opals. And when they get bigger, they do sparkle because their scales get bigger. And so there's more like contour to the scale. So like they actually, like I have goosebumps thinking about it. Like they are stunning, like absolutely gorgeous. And it makes up, they're kind of a plain snake. Like, they generally don't have pattern. But they do change colors, kind of like how a boa will change colors at night. They do that, which is pretty cool. It can be pretty dramatic, but some of them, I've noticed that not all of them do it. Some of them don't do it.
Walk me through that. Do they get darker or lighter?
So normally they're this really dark brown. They're not really black. Like people call them the black phase. And that's a misnomer because it kind of irritates. Like some of them are so dark they kind of look black, especially in the shade. But if you hold them in the sun, they all look brown, even the darkest one you get. But so Pearl, my big female, the one that I've gotten all the babies from, she's actually she's more of a brown, like a reddish brown almost. And she's my most dramatic color changer. And when she changes, she used to do it when she was younger, like a baby. They turn like silver with a black like ridge down there, like a black head and a black ridge down their back, and then like kind of like a silver fish netting that fades to almost white on their ventrals. Like It's a fade, like a kind of a ombre kind of look. And it's when you see them do that, you're just like, holy crap. Yeah. One of my friends has a male southern white lip that he seems to pretty much stay in that silver phase almost all the time. Like I've seen him look a little more brownish, but mostly he looks silver all the time.
Wow.
And I was hoping he could reproduce that. But so far he hasn't had luck with breeding.
So the male that you have available right now, how is his, is he pretty chill, or is he?
I've only ever had one baby that was like really chill. The babies, they're maniacs, absolute maniacs.
Are they pooping
I don't put in,
hoses?
I don't put in any time with them trying to tame them down. I try to hold them as little as possible. Because I do sell them, and just for biosecurity, I don't really hold the babies.
Sure.
Babies.
It makes sense. And, the more time that I've talked to people, it's like you could have Nido like hiding somewhere in some snake.
Yeah.
And then it could go to one of your babies, right? Because like the babies are pristine.
I've tested like not my whole collection, but I've tested most of my collection. I've tested all the males. But I've also heard of, there's false negatives. So you can't ever be 100% sure. And so I tried not to hold any. If I'm planning on selling an animal, I try not to hold them, even though it would be cool if I could like tame them down. But the thing is even if you take the time to tame it down, it might tame to me. And then after you ship it and it gets stressed out in shipping, and then it's in a whole new environment and a whole new person, it's all for probably not going to be tame anyways. Like you just have to work it yourself, and it has to learn your personality, and you have to learn its personality. Because I've sold animals that were these little maniac babies, and then, months later, like the person is like, he's cool, he's so chill, I love him, and I'm like, thank God. Every time I'm like, oh, I hope this person doesn't regret this. In the back of my mind, I'm always like, what these snakes are like, right? About white-lip pythons. And everyone's like, yeah. And I've never had anyone say, hey, do you want the snake back so far, knock on wood. But, in the back of my mind, I'm like waiting for it. And yeah, I always tell everyone like quarantine and test it. And so far, because it's something that you're afraid of. You don't want to be that person that sends someone as an animal that's positive. And,
well, you know what?
Unknowingly, you have to quarantine. And I always tell people, I guarantee this is a negative animal. If you get a positive test back, send it back to me and I will refund you the money plus the shipping.
Well, Steven was telling me that he had an animal in his collection. I can't remember the duration of time, but it went through a full quarantine. It was in his collection for either a number of months or even years. It went into shed, had a slight increase in mucus, just a little bit of mucus. And, him being him and his job and everything, grabbed a sample, tested, it was positive.
Yeah.
And this animal had been tested like every few months for years. So like
that freaks me out.
That's the point, is that like, and I got to get him on this podcast and talk to him about this stuff, because I feel like it's something that everybody's afraid to talk about, because it is like such a dreaded thing. But I don't think that like ignorance is bliss is the answer, but at the same time, I think that like shit happens, you know, and like
Yeah.
nobody should ever hold a breeder responsible, or drag them through the mud if that shit happened to happen to them. You know, it
Yeah.
should be, hey, we hardly even know what we're dealing with here, you know, and if it wasn't for people like Steven, we'd know so much less, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Shit.
It should terrify us all. But you know, and you know, from what it seems like, maybe not all the strains are collection killers. You know, some of the strains might just be it's
Yeah.
dormant until maybe every other shed, or every 2 years they get this one shed and it's in a cold month and it's too much and they get the sniffles and they would test positive, and as soon as those sniffles are gone, bam, they test negative.
Yeah. I mean, it could be like, you know, like how the COVID-19, when it first, you know, started ripping through people. And now when we get it, it's like not as scary of a thing because it's a new strain. And maybe the bad strains died off when they killed all those animals. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I mean,
But it is
yeah,
scary. You know, you don't want to get it and you don't want to spread it, you
yeah,
know.
100%.
I
And
almost feel like I'd rather deal with it than be responsible for making someone else have to deal with it,
100%.
you know.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the, I mean, when COVID first happened, you had asymptomatic people walking around that would test positive, but didn't have really any symptoms. And then you had people that were dying from it, you know? So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, who can figure that out?
So then, yeah, then
Maybe
people
I
are
had
saying,
COVID.
"Oh, COVID's not even that big of a deal." And then they're giving it to someone and that person drops dead. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you know, my wife worked at a hospital during COVID and, you know, lost a coworker, you know? So
Yeah.
it is, viruses are crazy. You know, they interact with different people in different ways, and that's all there is to it. And it's got to be the same for the snakes, you know. And who knows? Like with my family, you know, my wife just had COVID. I felt a little down, a little, you know, but I was still working out, being normal, being OCD, and washing my hands and everything. What if I had it the whole time and I was just asymptomatic? What if I gave it to them? You know, who knows?
Yeah. I still encourage people to test their animals, even though there are,
For sure.
you know, it's not 100%. It still is the one thing that we have right now.
Yeah, and especially if symptoms are there, right? If
Yeah.
and even if it's just like just a super minor RI, get it tested, you know, and because that'll be the time. That'll be the time when they would test positive.
Yep.
But yeah,
But
it's
I like to say, just there, I've heard of false negatives on symptomatic animals,
mm,
and that might have something to do, like you did said, with the different strains. Maybe they were just testing for the wrong strain.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's part of, you know, that's what they're doing at UF, is they're actually, they get the sample and then I don't know how it works. They do sciencey stuff and then they do like gene sequencing and all this stuff. And then they know the exact strain. And then you can like let another company know the exact strain and they can check for that specific strain. And that will increase the likelihood of getting, you know, a positive result or getting more accurate result. I don't know.
Yeah.
Got to talk to
Yeah.
Steven about all
Yeah,
this stuff.
totally. Got to get them on there.
Yeah,
On
I'm just
here.
an
On
idiot.
here, I mean.
Yeah. On here. So, hey, what's the difference between a northern and a southern? That's my dumb question of the day.
So if you see one that has like gold, they have a lot of orange and gold in theirs on there. So they're the golds and I think they should be called the golds and the whites, but it's the side pattern, like a side color. Not really a pattern, but so that they all like have a dark, um, what is the
Dorsal.
and then it like fades to a lighter ventral, and
Okay.
the northerns have a lighter, like a golden orange, yellowish ventral pattern. And then they also have their size differences too. Like they both get pretty much the same length, but the Southerns are just a little more beefier and girthier. They have bigger heads. You'll notice not only their head morphology is their pattern and the size, and the eye color is a little different. The Southerns have a much more the lip, the pattern on the lips is more defined. They have those really cool labial stripes that look like
it look
teeth.
Like a skull head.
Yeah. The young Southerns, I haven't seen the Northerns do it yet, but they'll do actually a threat display where they'll flatten their head and it pops the lips out, so you can see like the pattern on the lip.
Whoa.
And I could see it's pretty like, I love snakes that do a threat display. Like, even though, we're not supposed to like it when our snakes do a threat display because it's a sign of stress, but I like it. Like, I'm like, wow, I love that. I love when my bull snake hisses at me. I love when the boas hiss at me. I love when the white lips do their threat display. And yeah.
Oh yeah. My Argentine boa babies were super hissy when I first got them. And then as time went on, I would pick them up and they'd almost feel like one of those noodle balloons that were inflated with air. And then they would go like,
come up.
Yeah, they get like all puffed up and then they'd be like, and they start hissing. And it's
Would they still hiss when you're holding them? Like you'd pick, because that's what I have boa sigma, the Mexican boas, and they're hissy. They don't do it as much anymore, but I can't believe it. Time is just flying. They're already 2 years old, but every now and then the female will still hiss at me. The male never does it anymore. But yeah, as soon as you pick them up, they're just like, oh, that didn't work.
Like,
They've
hey,
never
Mom.
struck at me, but oh man, they would act like they were like, don't you come near me, I will mess you up. And then
it's so cute too, because they're like,
never mind.
Yeah, they're like, all right, fine, you're okay. Yeah, it's like my big girl, when I first got her, I think it was like within the first 4 or 5 days that I had her, I went in to take her out. I don't know why I was messing with her, or maybe I just went in there to like change a water bowl or something. And yeah, she hissed, and like this 6-foot Argentine boa hissing was like so intense. And I'm like, that's so cool. Like that made my heart rate go up. Right. And like, it was such a cool thing. Like her lizard brain was doing its thing, and then my monkey brain was doing its thing, where it was like, I should stay away from this, but it was
just like, whoa,
yeah,
that thing is scary.
Exactly. And the babies, it was adorable, but now they see me and they're like, food, now they're not scared. It's just like, oh, mouse, I get a mouse now. I
know my bull snake used to do it all the time too when he was a little baby, but now he never does. He rattles his tail at me, but every now and then he will do it. It's like I spooked him or something, and he will just like throw a fit. And they don't just hiss, but they'll like arch up and like, do this whole big, and it's like, dude, you haven't done that in years. It's me. Yeah. And he's like, you just scared me. So like,
how dare you wake me? Yeah, that's like Rachel Pickstein said, like keeping venomous and working with venomous. Like if you're doing your job right and you're working with animals that have, been kind of desensitized to human interaction, like most cobras aren't going to hood up, right? It's only when they're kind of being put in that situation and being really stressed out that they're going to do that threat display, So yeah, it's cool to see, but at the same time, it's cool when you don't see it, because then you think like, all right, cool,
it's
we're getting somewhere.
Like, well, I'm not doing my job.
Yeah. That I
part
remember.
Of me was like, I'm gonna get my camera and videotape this thing. It only happens like once every 2 years now. Like, it's amazing.
That's cool. I didn't know that the white lips had a threat display where they kind of
Only the
flatten
babies
out.
do it, and I had never seen it before because I got my original pair when they were like probably 2 years old, 2 or 3,
Mm.
and it wasn't until I got the babies that, and I didn't even notice it. Like I think the first clutch didn't really do it. The second clutch, they all did it, and then this last clutch, some of them do it, but not all of them do it.
And was your original pair wild caught or captive bred?
Yeah, they were wild caught. They were brought in as, I thought originally, I didn't know how small they were as babies. So I thought they were much younger than they were. It wasn't until I hatched out babies and I thought, oh, they were probably like 2 years old when I first got them. So they were probably like they had, the guy I got him from, I asked him and he said he had them for 6 months and he was originally going to keep them, but he had an adult pair. I don't know what happened to those animals, but he decided to sell this pair, and I got them, and that was in, oh, I can't remember now. I want to say the beginning, either late 2017. I want to say, yeah, it was 2017, like November, December when I got them.
So pretty early in your
Yeah.
keeping.
Yeah. Like I didn't even, it wasn't even, I didn't want a ball pythons weren't ever like on my radar. I saw baby green tree pythons, and I was like at a show like 2015, I saw baby green tree pythons for the first time, and I had never seen those, and I was just like, oh, holy crap. And I was like really interested in them, but everybody told me that, they're really hard to keep, they die. And so I started researching like I didn't actually start researching right away. It wasn't until my friend's son got a baby reticulated python, and I held that thing. And after that, I couldn't stop thinking about pythons.
Yeah.
It was like burned into my brain, and I was like thinking about it constantly. And then I started researching. I didn't want to retic, even though that was what kind of broke the camel's back for me. Like I was like, or not broke the count. That's not the right saying, but
it was the last
it was
straw.
the gateway drug. Like it was the crack that I smoked or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I held that and I couldn't, it was hooked. I was like, I gotta get some crack.
I love you, Lisa.
Well, it is like an addiction. Like they call it addiction. I think we're wasting all of our time talking about these things we're obsessed with. But
oh, I know. It is. Have you ever thought about getting like a super dwarf or
I did. I tried the retics, but
oh, you did.
I did. I didn't get a super dwarf. I got a dwarf, and I had to move it on. It was just too big.
Too big. Even as a dwarf, how big did it get?
I think it was probably close to 10 feet by the time I moved it on.
Oh, wow.
I just was like, it's not safe for me to have this snake by myself. Their food response is so crazy. And I'm hoping that that doesn't happen with the amethystina. Because I do know that, like, I thought, oh, this will be fine. I'm a responsible keeper. But they just get to a size where you're like, I don't want to be that person that's the accident that happens. And so I found him a new home. But don't
ruin the hobby for us.
Yeah,
Lisa.
I love exactly. Yeah, that's what I was. But yeah,
it just got too big.
Yeah, but so that's what got me into pythons, and I wanted a green tree python, and I ended up getting a ball python because the internet said that this is what you should get.
Yeah.
Because they don't die and they're easy to keep. And actually they're pretty hard. They get stuck shed pretty easily. You need to know about humidity, and they don't always want to eat. They're kind of hard. Like
Yeah, mine.
they're
I remember
they're really tame. Like they don't bite you. They don't move fast. But other than that, they aren't the easiest. But I would say that they're good for pythons, and I like mine. They're not my favorite snakes that I have, but you know, they are some of the cutest snakes I have.
I had a pair, and I recently moved them along. I had a water softener put in and a RO system, and the guy that was installing it was into he's into snakes too. So he or was, and so he was interested, and I was like, hey, if you want these.
Did you trade for work?
Partially. Yeah, partially.
Right
so
on.
so that it worked out well. You know, and he's giving them a lot of attention, and they're getting a lot of love where they went. So I'm really happy with that. And, you know, and when he produces babies, one of the babies is going to go to my son. That was a part of the arrangement because my son was heartbroken. Yeah, he was heartbroken, and I did feel bad, but I kind of had the same feeling where I was like, these aren't my favorite snake, but for me, in my entire collection, they were my least favorite snake. And so, you know, and even though they had great care and all that, yeah, it was like, you know what, I'm not vibing on these snakes. They're not for me. They are cool. They're fun to interact with. The female was great. The male was like he would go rigid like a board if you touched him, and he'd flatten his body out, and he would strike at me when I went in. And, but it was my son's favorite snake. It's so funny. Like, you know, even though like he knew he couldn't take him out of the tub. Once I got him out of the tub, he would just sit on my son's lap, like frozen in fear.
Do you know the ball python trick? You know how they ball up?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work as well on the ones that go like rigid. Yeah. They don't ball up as much. But every time, if you are showing a little kid to hold, like this is going to be their first pet snake, mm-hmm. and if they start to act defensive or act like they're going to bite, you just put your hand over the ball python, and they tuck their head. Because that's their defense mechanism, is to ball. They'll never like reach up and bite your hand. They'll always just ball. So that's the trick you can teach your son when you get the new baby, is like if it acts defensive, just gently cup it, and it'll do the ball python thing. I tried that with the baby white lip python. They don't do that. They'll be like, what the fuck? And they'll hang on to the palm of your hand.
That's so funny. My Timors, it's funny, like, because they like once I get them out and they blow urates everywhere and they musk. After that, and I get them moving in my hands, like everything is easy as pie. And but I can actually put their head in my hand and close my hand around their head, and they just stop moving. They're just like, oh, okay, which is really weird. Yeah. It doesn't freak them out. They're just stop.
Head shy, because that's like a common thing. Like white lip pythons are very head shy.
Are they?
Yeah, even the really calm ones, you don't want to touch their head.
They just don't appreciate it.
Mm-mm. Yeah, they're really sensitive to touch too. You have to know about how to handle a sensitive, like a reactive snake, by just letting them sit on you. Don't ever want to grab over the top of they don't touch their spine, don't touch their head, don't touch their tail. You just let them slither around in your arms. I mean, some of them you can do that, but generally that's what I tell people.
Yeah, I recently got my first blood python, and I'm shocked at how like laid back she is. But her eyes move around, and she watches everything that's going on around her, which is really cool.
Like she holds really still, and you can see her like
exactly, and it's really cool to watch that.
They don't go.
Yeah, no.
Like that's what the white lips, they're moving their head towards you, like keeping you in their sights.
Yeah. She'll like almost lock with your eyes, and you can move her around you, and she'll just slowly turn her head and eyes and like stay locked on your face. But she doesn't seem overly concerned, you know, like she's very laid back, which I'm really happy with. So
Are they, I've heard that they have like a really fast strike.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Maybe
Have you fed them yet?
Yeah, I've given her, yeah, she's gotten two small rats now. And I'm doing like a small rat every 2 to 3 weeks. And,
so she's gentle.
Yeah. She just like, it's like the laziest, like, oh, I got it. And she doesn't even wrap it. She's like,
that's how my carpet pythons are. And I'm like, come on.
Oh, you should.
I want to see some action.
What kind of carpets do you have?
I have the New Guinea carpets.
Oh, okay. Pop ones.
Yeah, I have. I have. I have a really beautiful female that's one from Nick, and she's like one of his like he has like a reduced pattern line that he's doing. Lately he's been producing these gorgeous reduced pattern, and I got one of those from him, and she's beautiful. And but I have a granite male that I have from him, and then I also have a wild caught New Guinea. And I my plan is that I eventually want to make some granites that are from that wild caught female, so that, just to keep outcrossing the granite, because the granite has had a lot of problems, and it seems like they're better now, but it's just good to just, that would be really cool if I could have, granites from a unrelated female. And that's one of the cool things about the New Guinea carpets is you can get unrelated. Yeah. And then it would be really cool with the granites to try to do like reduced pattern granites, because people do I've seen like jag granites, but I don't know. I think the jag messes up the granite a little bit more than it would be cool to have some pure New Guinea granites that are reduced pattern, just from a natural reduced pattern, so that you still get some of the because I like the variegata because they have a lot of the orange in the saddles. That's some of the other than Brettles pythons, they're like the orangest of the carpets. But
yeah, what do you think of the super granites?
Well, granite is a recessive, so all granites are technically supers.
Which are the ones that get the weird tails? I bet you're
thinking of zebras.
Oh yeah, super zebras. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, the zebras are from I think the jungles.
Yeah. And
but they do
super zebras.
So
are wild.
People do make granite zebras.
Ooh.
And they look really cool too. Like they almost look like diamond pythons, kind of like. Sorry, I don't want to put down your diamonds, but
just get a diamond.
They kind
python.
of have that real like black and white speckly look.
Yeah,
It's really cool.
Diamond pythons are some of the coolest pythons in my opinion. They are
my
so
friend
smart.
Kathy has a pair of them, and they're so beautiful. Are you kidding me? Like when you see it, and they don't photograph, they look so much better. A lot of snakes do look better in person, but when you see a diamond python, like an adult diamond python, especially in person, you're just like, oh my God, that's too much.
And especially like the ones that are in Australia, and then there's ones here that are in the States too that look very much like the Australian ones. And I see
which ones are because there's different looks in the diamonds, but what look is the look that you really like?
I really like big, pure rosettes and a lot of tipping on the entire body, where it's like fishnets or just a lot of yellow. You see that a lot. It's in Australia, and every now and then you see animals like that here, and it's like, gosh, you have no idea like what kind of like how amazing and beautiful that is.
I love that fishnet look that pythons get. The scrubs have the fishnet look, and the southern white lips, when they do that silver, the silver, it looks like fishnet stockings down, a leg. And I'm like, I told Rob Christian that he had a scrub, and I'm like, that looks like a lady in a fishnet stocking. And he thought that must be why I love him so much.
It's I mean, it's that's like my favorite thing too. I got a jungle from Nick, and her like quote unquote black areas are just getting lighter and lighter as she gets bigger. And
getting all that tipping, and
oh my God, it's nuts. And it keeps going further up her sides. Like it started out as a small amount, and she's turning almost brown in the black areas and getting that fishnet look. And to me, that is like the best look possible. Like it's incredible. And she's just getting more and more of it as time's going on. And that's keeping her yellow really clean too. So awesome. It's like, and my diamonds, they're both at an equal amount of sheds now, and they're getting more that fishnet look. And I'm like, yes, keep going. Like, just keep going with that. Keep getting
the diamonds have a really good black too. It's like there's like it's a clean black, like, and it's just that contrast between the clean white and yellow. Like I like the diamonds that have yellow and white in the black mixed in.
Yeah, and as
so there's like it's like yellow pattern, then with white rosettes all different places, and then that clean, like pure black that they have. Yeah,
I'm excited to see what happens when I move mine outside. So because they're going to be
might get blacker, huh?
Yeah, I'm interested to see, because I had Asen on, and we were talking about putting animals outside, and he said that when he puts his carpets outside, their colors like pop. They get way more colorful, and they really fire up. So I'm hoping that I'm just going to get the best of all worlds once they get outside and get that heat and UV and all that good stuff.
Well, technically all the snakes, when you bring them outside in the sunlight, they all pop.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Because I'm like, ooh, bring them out. When I go visit a friend and I'm looking at their snakes, and I'm like, can we bring it outside? I want to see it outside.
I have an IMG Motley boa, and inside he's just, at this point, he is almost pure black, but you bring him outside and put him in the sunlight, and he's black with a rainbow sheen. And that's how the white lips are.
They're not pure black, but they're almost black and rainbow.
Yeah. Like, hey, I know you gotta get going pretty soon here. I think we got 15 minutes. It's okay. I got you for 15 minutes.
I feel like we've just been chit chatting.
That's fine. Well, that's kind of what we do. I wanted to ask you about vending at shows and what your experience has been like, because you had mentioned that you've done that a couple times.
Yeah, I would say it was my personality is like, I'm kind of reserved and more introverted, so I'm not the right personality for that. Mm-hmm. And I don't have the right type of animals for that. Like bringing southern white-lipped pythons to a show is probably, don't expect to have them fly off the shelf, because that's not what happened. And it was just really draining. Like I felt like almost like I was sick, like I had the flu or something. Like it just like took a lot out of me, just because I've had to talk to so many people. And mm-hmm. The other thing is like I brought a few of my adults that I was like, I think I'm going to move this one on. And so I got the idea. I thought, I'm going to test all these animals for nido, so they'll have a clean nido. And I can, if people feel weird about buying an adult animal, they'll at least have this certificate showing that they recently passed a NIDO test. And I realized that most people don't even know about NIDO, let alone testing. But other than that, I would say maybe I would do a show again, but probably not for a good long while.
Yeah.
And maybe if I had a bunch of ball pythons to sell, I would want to do a show.
Yeah. In my opinion, and I like what you just said, like it hit the nail on the head for me. Going and talking to a lot of people makes me feel like I'm getting the flu the next day. Like I'm totally just shot, like exhausted. I can't think straight.
I felt like I was doing heavy labor all weekend. Yeah. By the end, I was like, what is wrong with me? I'm not sick, but I just feel like I want to sleep for like a day straight.
Yeah. And it's like in the moment when I'm there, I think I'm like fine, but then, like recovering from that is, it's hard.
Yeah. And the shows that I did were both 2-day shows. I think I would like doing shows more if it was just a 1-day event.
Yeah. Can you do that? Can you book a table for 1 day, or is it like?
No, I mean, I've heard of, there are shows that are 1 day, just 1-day shows. But I think if you book a table, part of the contract is saying that you are going to stay the whole time until the close.
Are you doing that by yourself, or are you doing it with like a helper?
I brought a friend.
That's good.
I brought friends. I had brought 2 friends to the Roseville show, and that one was actually more fun, having multiple people there, but it was still stressful. I think I do it to myself just because I'm like, oh, everything has to be perfect, the animals, everything clean, and like, my table look cute, and like,
gotta have a cute table.
Yeah. For all the like, young guys that are going to come and look at my, I actually did try to sell one of those scrub pythons. There was like some young guy, like typical, like kind of guy that you would expect would want a scrub python.
Like a Paul Duran, like a total bro.
No. More like a, not high school, but fresh out of high school. Like, I have my first apartment and I'm going to go get a scrub python.
Yep.
But they were just like, oh, they can't afford that right now.
He's like, you got anything wild caught?
I'm like, well, this is what I wasn't charging a ton of money for him, but I actually paid a lot more than what the going price is for an amethystina, because they were sold to me as Tanabar, captive bred imported Tanabars. So I paid a premium price for those, but I would put it on the table for what a wild caught amethystina would have been.
That's so wild
and I was like, this is your perfect chance to get a tame baby wild caught amethystina that's been tested for NIDO. It's not showing any RI symptoms. It's eating perfect. You don't have to play roulette and buy from an importer.
Yeah. That's so wild that you got those from Florida.
I know. Yeah. Well, that's why I'm like, if you're getting a class Lepus, any of the other species of scrub, and it's coming from a Florida importer, don't do it, because it might be something else.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah. I didn't even know that.
Because when they're little, it's hard to tell, especially in a picture. They kind of look the same. I was like, I was staring at so many pictures there's a few pictures of baby Nada, and I'm like, they kind of look like that, but no, this pattern that's coming in, it does not. I think these are amethystina. And I'm pretty sure if you probably have an amethystina and a Nada side by side, the same age, the size difference would give it away too. But if you just have one and you don't really have the reference point for the other, they do look very, very similar.
Can I ask what they cost?
I want to say I bought all 3 of them. I can't remember. I'd probably be saying the wrong price, but I think they were 3,000.
Oh, wow.
I paid, it was really expensive even for a Tannenbar. It was high. I was willing to pay that for the Tannenbars because being that they're young, because getting import, if you get them as young as you can, that's best. It's always best. You're going to have the best success. You're not going to have to deal with as many of the problems that I'm dealing with now with trying to acclimate an adult wild caught.
Yeah. How has it been going getting your green tree python started?
I'm kind of crash and burning on that. I have there's 12 of them. I feel fairly confident. I'm not scared that any of them are gonna crash right now, but 4 of them have taken off of tongs and eaten pinkies for me, but only 2 of those have done it repeatedly. So right now I'm kind of assist feeding. I've assist fed some pinks, but mostly I'm assist feeding chicken gizzards based off of what Bill Stiegel recommend what he does with his. I watched a video of him showing how he does it, and I've just been doing that. I think I haven't been patient enough and tried. A lot of them are doing the running thing where they won't even strike at it. So, trying to chase them down and corner them, and they won't even turn around and strike. They're just trying to get away. But some of them hatched out really small. And so I'm thinking if I can get them to keep eating the chicken gizzards you just kind of put the little slice of chicken gizzard in their mouth, and they will just start swallowing it. But there's a few of them that don't even want to do that, and they'll just like spit it out. So I have to pick them up, put it back in their mouth, and kind of like use a sex ink probe and like push it down into their throat a little bit, and then do that a few times, and then they'll finally swallow it. But that one that's like, I have one that's doing fabulous. It wants to eat like every day because I have to spray them. They seem to desiccate really quickly. Like if I don't mist them at least once a day, they'll get kind of like their scales are so small right now that they look like they have skin rather than scales.
All crinkly kind of.
Yeah, and then they get kind of like crinkly looking. And they're all yellows. So the thing I don't like about the yellows is it's a lot harder to tell when they go into shed. So I'm always like, oh, is it in shed or is it just like dehydrated? So they plump back up after you mist them, and they will drink I miss the hot spot, and then I miss them, and I've seen them drink off of their own body. So I think that they're not really drinking out of the water bowl. Maybe there was one that I saw, it had a wet head. So I think that one might have been drinking or playing in the water, but they're cute too. They'll, not all of them, but I catch them every now and then where they're in like a hunt posture, and they'll like do the little S coil and just stare at the ground, and they're just so adorable. I can't believe that the first snake that I saw that I was like, ooh, what is that? And now I have 12 of them, and I'm enjoying it. Like even the part where I'm having to pick them up and put the food in their mouth. It's fun to me. Like I just, the part, if they do start to, go downhill, that won't be fun. But right now, like I'm feeling emotional. Like I hope that doesn't happen. I want them to all make it. They got this far. There is one that's very runty. And at first I thought that one, I was worried it wasn't even going to shed, but it's still alive. It's shed. I weighed it when I first when it first hatched out, I weighed it because I wanted to see. I weighed it, and then I weighed one of the bigger ones just to see the size range. And the big one was 10 grams, and the small one was 6 grams. And then I recently re-weighed the small one, and it was up to 9 grams. So
wow.
It still looks really small, though. It looks much smaller than the other one. So I'm thinking maybe they're growing, like even though they're eating just the chicken gizzards, even those are growing. Maybe, hopefully. I've only gotten one shed out of them, so I keep waiting for another shed, but I don't know. This is all new territory.
No issues with prolapse or anything?
Oh, knock on wood. So far, no.
Good.
So that one that's a really great eater, I accidentally, I missed when I'm misting them. If I see one that's in a hunt posture, I'll go grab a pinky out of the fridge and defrost it and offer it. And that one, I thought that the one that had been eating was in a different above it. And I'm like, oh, it's in the hunt posture, and it's like acting like it literally will like look at me, like feed me, like it's acting like a white-lipped python practically. And it eats I just show it the pinky, and it just goes straight to it and wraps it. Like
nice
business. Like I know it was born knowing what to do to be a captive bred python. But I fed it 2 days in a row. Think I mistook because they kind of look the same.
Oh,
and
wow.
I thought, oh my God, this is when the prolapse is going to happen. But no, it just pooped.
Nice. Good. Well, I hope it takes off.
I hope it stays that way.
They're so cute. They are adorable. You have the most adorable baby green trees.
I named one Lisa. I didn't name it after me, but it kind of looks like Lisa Simpson.
Oh, okay.
It has a yellow and the big eyes. And I was like, oh my God, it looks like Lisa. Well, either Lisa or Bart. I'm like,
yeah, because they're yellow. And
I'm hoping for girls, though, because I have so many male green tree pythons already. I'm hoping to, other than the 2 that I am going to give to Lucas if he wants them, I'm planning on keeping them and watching them change, because this is like, the dream come true for me to do this. Heck
yeah. All right, Lisa. Well, I know you got to get going. And we're right at the time that you need to jump off at. I feel like we could have talked for another 2 hours.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Adam. I really love your podcast. You're doing such a great job. And I feel honored to be on here, and I really enjoy talking to you.
Oh yeah, it was great having you on, and great conversation, and hopefully you'll come back.
Yeah, I can't wait to see those baby Timors.
We got some time. We'll see what happens. All right, thank you, Lisa.